We're going to do something a little bit different today. We're going to start the session today with a vendor roundtable here. Basically what we wanted to do is we wanted to give an opportunity for the sponsors of the meeting to come up here, give a little bit, basically a 10-minute presentation, no more than 10 minutes. We got 7 folks up here and we want to leave plenty of time for questions. First off, I want to thank all of the sponsors again for their generous contribution for the conference and helping us to put this on. Obviously, we've got a large attendance here. I think it's going to be an exciting conference. And as Galen mentioned, I will be organizing next year's LUG meeting. Right now, we're discussing possibly holding it in Austin. I think everybody enjoyed supercomputing in Austin, and it's a good place to have a conference. So I think if anybody has any comments or suggestions or want to basically volunteer for any of the committees, please let me know. So with that, we're going to start. We're going to go in alphabetical order for the vendors. We're going to let them give their little presentation. Save all your questions for after all the presentations are complete, and then we'll have everybody answer questions at that time. I think Steve will run around with the microphone. Having fun again, Steve. So with that, I'm going to start with Eric Monchalin. Is that how you pronounce your last name? From Bull. And turn it over to him. Go.
Good morning, everybody. Do you hear me? Okay. Thank you, John. I could speak loudly. So, sorry guys, it's not a two techie sessions. So I will make some effort to anyway provide you with valuable information. And how does it work? Yeah. And first of all, let me ask you questions. Who knows what is build business? Build business. Please, would you set up your hand up to let me know who know build business? 2, 3, 4. Okay, one guy of Bull is knowing Bull business. The second one doesn't. Okay. Well, it's worse than I suspected. So I see that we have a lot of room for improvement to advertise and make our company well known, especially in the States. So maybe let me start by some educations. Bull is an old European company. We were founded in the 1920s in Norway. And we delivered our first computers in 1951, a long time ago, to a bank, not yet for trading risk analysis. And we started on HPC in the 2000s. When we did introduce our Itanium product line for our traditional enterprise business, and when we discovered the floating point capability of the processor. So if we have a quick look of where Bull is doing its business, we are running business mainly in Europe, Africa, South America, and only partly in the States, as I saw with this quick survey, and in Asia. And we are focusing in 4 areas: innovative products, designing and producing our supercomputers, high-end servers and mainframes. We are still on the mainframe market for all our customers, computing solutions, delivering our whole data centers solutions, business integration solution responsible for delivering consulting services and solution integrations, and security solutions business line responsible for offering Bull the capability to be a European leader on security market in synergy with all the other product lines. So Bull is an old company starting with mainframes and being now on security and HPC market. And today the HPC product line we created less than 10 years. It's a larger business unit within Bull. So build strategies, especially on HPC, it's to start from standard components like processors, chipsets, InfiniBand technology, storage products, and to integrate these whole basic components as a complete solutions with build added value and innovations. We do develop our own service and compute nodes, designing either blade systems based on EP Intel processors, today Westmere EP, and tomorrow Sandy Bridge EP processors with GPUs capabilities. And we also developed 4 to 16 socket SMP systems based on Intel EX processors, today NehalEm EX, and tomorrow, when available, Westmere EX processors. So we do develop either both blade branch products and large SMP servers, depending on the kind of applications of our customers. We developed also our whole software stack based on open source products, and we do offer a whole environment with supercomputer management components, development environments, execution environments, for sure file system and Lustre. I am here to talk a little bit about Lustre. So everything the customer will need in terms of software for installing, managing, monitoring is supercomputers and running applications. On interconnect, we do work with Mellanox and Voltaire, who are the same company now for InfiniBand. And we used to work with Cisco and Brocade for management and backbone, Ethernet backbone networks. On storage, we do work with DDN, LSI, who are our main partners for HPC. But we work also with CMC, with Bull or historical partners, and Panasas. Additionally, we do provide a whole range of services to our customers, starting from delivering, servicing, supporting our world solutions, but also offering application tunings and a lot of other services to our customers. Back on Lustre, the topic of the conference, I would like to stress that when we get a Lustre Core Source Tree or Lustre Core product, we are far away from a full solution for customers. First of all, there is a huge work to get the Lustre Core software integrated within our own Linux distributions and being fully integrated with the storage products, considering I/O size issues, multipassing capability, and so on and so on. And then you need, whoa, this PowerPoint is not working like mine. Okay. So you need to offer your customer with a Lustre management environment. It has been already discussed yesterday. You need to provide tools to configure, monitor, and manage your Lustre file system. And you need also to provide tools to manage your storage. Thank you, sir. Because if you do have a large number of OSS, MDS, you do have also a huge quantity of storage. You need to provide high availability capabilities, and you have to work on performances. World servers are now non-uniform memory access architectured. It is the same for IOs. So we do have a lot of work to do in terms of performances. We do work on MPI-IO too, to make MPI-IO Lustre aware and to take advantage of the Lustre architecture of the supercomputers. And you have to run tests, and testers and validations to make the whole solution efficient and to deliver a high-quality product to the customers. And it's not mean only testing Lustre, but testing Lustre with storage, servers, InfiniBand, offset stack, and so on. And it's really important to deliver this whole environment. And I would like to stress that we have to enlarge the Lustre user base. It is well adopted by large customers, but it is not so used in the industry market and with smaller customers. And it's important for us to enlarge the customer base. In terms of build commitment, we started to invest on Lustre in 2004, so a long time ago. And we delivered our first large file system to CA in 2006. It was a 100 gigabyte per second file system. And last year, we delivered a 500 gigabyte per second file system to CA again, based on Red Hat 6 and Lustre 2.0 versions. This year, we did participate to the EOFS foundations. We participate to the administrative council, and we actively worked on the definition of the roadmap. And we are also pleased to represent the UEFS associations to the OpenSFS teleconference. And we also signed several WAM Cloud partnerships for developments and professional services and L3 support. So Bull is really committed on Lustre. We will participate to Lustre 2.1 effort. We already push all our Lustre 2.1 and Red Hat 2.0 and Red Hat 6 patches. We will participate to the test effort, and we intend to participate to the release of next Lustre versions. So Lustre is there, and we suspect that Lustre will be there for a long time. Thank you for your attention.
Okay. Thanks, Eric. Let me swap over to the next presentation. And next one will be Data Direct Networks and John Josephakis. Many of you know John. I've worked with him for many years now. So with that.
Thanks, Tommy. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for coming to the conference. DDN is very happy to be here, be part of the Lustre team, and we're very, very happy to see this large number of people here. My presentation is more about where has Lustre been, where it is, and where it's going. I think all of us are here because we hope that the future is going to be very bright. We're going to have a lot more people next year in Austin, I hope. I'm biased. I used to live in Austin, so that's fine with me. And just wanted to give you a brief overview and stay focused basically on the cause. And the cause is Lustre and what we can all do as a community to support it. And the fact that all of us are up here as vendors, we're here to support the community, I think. And the community, I think, is looking for us to provide some sort of leadership from the technology standpoint, from the support standpoint, but also from the future developments that we all need for Lustre to be successful. So where was Lustre? And a long time ago, now it looks like, back in 2003, DDN was involved with Dell as our partner at the time at NCSA, and we deployed the Tungsten machine. And back then, we had a lot of people that are still involved in Lustre that were working day and night to get a system that was 10 gigabytes a second and about 200 terabytes. And that was a big accomplishment. And stability was a huge issue, and we had a lot of things we needed to deal with, and it was gigabit Ethernet system and all the other things that you all probably know. It has come a long way, and over here on the slide, as you see, it's a continuous effort. We went from a 10 to 100 to a 200 to a 300 gigabyte plus file system in a period of a few years. But the speed is not what we are only after. What we are after is also the stability. And I think most of you in this room have come from a 10 gigabyte to a 50 or 100 or 200 gigabyte system, but you have also been able to deploy file systems in a stable world. So what we see is more people joining the Lustre team worldwide, either at the vendor level or at the user level. And the goal has been to not only develop technologies to make things faster and less of them and whatever, but also how do we make Lustre a stable file system that will become a product that will be used in the industry, that will be a product that you can go out and say, yes, you can use it, it's a stable thing. We hear all the time, you know, competitors of the Lustre file system say, well, it's not production ready, it doesn't do this, it doesn't do that, you need a lot of people, and that's something we need to change. If we want Lustre to be successful, we need to make sure that people understand that stability is there. And that's why DDN is involved, and what we are actively doing, and you know, a lot of you tease me because we're trying to hire even more people and bring people into the Lustre world and team, is to make sure that the file system is not only fast, but it's very stable. So DataDirect is investing a lot of resources. We have a very close partnership with OneCloud in developing things, in doing a roadmap that will fit to the requirements that you all have. So that's very critical for us. And I think what the slide shows is that, you know, the file system has come a long way. It's able to handle your requirements, but let's make it even more stable. Let's take it to the next level. And the history proves that we've done it, so we need to continue that. As your systems are becoming larger, there are other things that are coming into place and that we need to address. IOPS, cluster metadata, things like that. And those are all things that the community should get together, discuss, and see how we address them. It's not up to DDN or Bull or Zyrotex or OneCloud. It's everybody in the community, and the only way we're going to be successful is if we all work together to bring the requirements forward and then try to work on them and make them achievable. So a little bit about DataDirect. A lot of you kind of either are customers or know about DDN, but basically we form a strong partnership with a lot of the HPC vendors, and they're our partners, but also with a lot of the customers. And the way DDN works in building our roadmap is usually we talk to people in the community, see what you guys want, and work alongside the community to develop products. Again, our goal is to continuously address the bandwidth requirements, the stability, the feature set that the community wants. And that's how we build our products, and that's how we continue to partner with companies, either it's in the interconnect space or the CPU space or the support space, to provide things that will make your overall system a more stable place for people to run their applications. So we fully understand that when you come to DDN, you are not looking to buy a bunch of hard drives that you put behind your system so that you can accumulate your data. It's a way for you to complete your research. It's a way for you to complete your application. And that's what's very different about DDN. We try to understand your applications and your users, frankly, and what they want to do. And that's why we continue to invest in the area of research and software for our company. And again, the other thing that's very, very key for you is as you start to deploy tens of thousands of drives to get the bandwidth and the capacities you require, how to manage those drives is very key. Data integrity is very key. And that's something we've addressed for a long time and we continue to address to make sure that your data is where it is and does what it's supposed to be doing. So that's something we stay continuously focused on. And again, over the years, a lot of you have deployed DDN, and what we've done is we've created a partnership with a lot of our customers, a lot of our partners, we call them, and also with a lot of our tier one, vendor partners that we work with. And the goal here is for you guys to bring to us your requirements, but also for us to help the development of Lustre, which is very key as we move forward. We're not going to be able to move forward with Lustre unless we all get in a room and work together to provide solutions for challenges that we'll face in 2011, 12, 15, and forward. But we have to have a stable file system and a foundation that we can build on. And DDN is dedicated resources and funding in that cause. And that's why why I'm here to tell you. As part of this, we're also, I wanted to announce that, you know, at ISC in Hamburg, we are going to have a users group meeting, and the users are going to be asked, you know, to also come in, but present. I don't want people to come and just hear the DDN story. We want to hear what you have to say. How are you using DDN storage? How do you expect to deploy it in the future? What things do you need from DDN? And then maybe we can share with you what we think are some of the ways we can address those. And basically that's it. I just didn't want to take too much of your time or talk too much about our DDN product line. I think, you know, this is more of a thank you for everybody participating here. DDN is committed to working with the community to provide you the solutions that you need for your users, for your applications. And again, let us know if there is anything we can do to help you to promote, you know, Lustre in the community, and how we can work closer as vendor community to achieve that. Because I think we all have to work together as a team, because the goal is one, and that's why you're all in this room. So thank you very much.
Thanks, John. All right, thanks, John. Switch to the next vendor, which will be Dell. And it'll be Jeff Layton.
Thanks, Tommy. Good morning. Kind of echo John's comments. I want to thank everybody for coming to the conference. This is Dell's first year for sponsoring the LUG, and we hope we're going to be sponsoring it for the next few years. I'm sure Tommy will be glad to hear about that as well, particularly for next year, because we're in Austin. So today I wanted to focus talking about Lustre at Dell, because in the past you might have think that's kind of an oxymoron, but actually we've been offering Dell products with our partners DDN for a number of years, but now we're also offering Lustre on Dell hardware, kind of focusing on the mid-level in association with one of our partners, Terrascala. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit, and also talk about another twist that we're offering, Lustre concept, or Lustre service solutions. So just to give you kind of an overall approach about Dell and HPC storage, we're focused on flexibility, and we mean flexibility in performance, scalability, price, and availability. You know, nobody's going to come to us and say the exact same set of requirements every time. So we want to be flexible in how we construct our solutions and how we support our solutions. So to do this, we've taken two approaches. The first one is a complete solution where it's fully vetted, tested, supported. We deliver it. We know exactly the environment on the client side. We know exactly the environment on the storage side, and you treat it as an appliance. You get all the dedicated documentation, and we have deployment services. But then in contrast to that, we also have something we call roll it your own. This audience, you know, you're all Lustre experts by and large, so you don't necessarily maybe want the appliance approach. You may, but you may want to say, can I build Lustre on Dell hardware? So what we've done is we've worked with our Cambridge partners, Paul Kaleja, I'm sure Paul's in the audience somewhere, but he develops white papers that talk about how to construct a Lustre storage solution on Dell hardware. So you go ahead and buy the Dell hardware, we give you the white paper, you can read through it, build it yourself. It's very extensive, step-by-step instructions if you want to go that way. So kind of our view of how HPC storage works in this quick chart, the scale on the y-axis just breaks everything into the IDC standard groups, and across the bottom is more of like performance. Moving to the right is more performance. So we've kind of divided things into three pieces. Archiving, where you need lots of scalability, cheap and deep. Local directory, home directories, where you need something that's relatively stable, easy to use, and where you can be sure that your small bits of source code are safe. And on the far right is the application space, or what we call fast scratch. So this yellow bubble is what I want to talk about. This is our partnership with Terrascala to create what we call HSS, HPC Storage Solution. And you can obviously tell that was not developed by marketing, that was developed by engineers. Our current solution, we're going to announce next week, is version 3. We call it DT Dell Terrascala HSS 3. Again, you can tell engineers developed this, not marketing people. It's a full Lustre solution, fully configured, tested, tuned, and deployed. It comes standard with 3 years of support, all the way to L3, courtesy of Terrascala, our partner. It's redundant and highly available on the MDS and the OSS. The MDS active-passive, of course. The OSS is active-active with storage failover on the back end. We're still doing the performance characterization, but we get somewhere north of 3 gigabytes a second out of an OSS pair. So we have 2 nodes over QDR. But we start anywhere from 48 terabytes up to about 336 terabytes in what we call our standard configurations. But those can serve as building blocks to build bigger solutions, more capacity, more performance, whatever you like. And then with Terrascala, we use their console to actually manage everything. And we interact with the Dell hardware through what we call the Dell iDRAC, which is kind of a lights-out management capability. Also, we're integrated into the Terrascala console, so we have a single button upgrade. So we treat this as an appliance. So the software stack is fixed. The OS, the version of Lustre, firmware, the BIOS version, and all the hardware. So we have the ability to do a single button upgrade. You just click upgrade, you have the package, and it upgrades everything for you, and it's already pre-tested that way. So the management console is a feature that we really like. This is one of the reasons we partnered with Terrascala. They have a Java-based GUI console, which you can download if you want to experiment with it and see what it does. But this is integrated into the Dell hardware and also in the Terrascala software stack. So, you may, having been around Linux for a long time, you may kind of disparage GUIs. I got to admit, when I was younger, I wanted everything command line, but now that I'm getting older and can't see well, I want a GUI where I can get a big number and I can see what's going on at a glance. And that's why we like the GUI, particularly for the mid-level market customers, so they can get a quick glance of what's going on. Why is that OST getting slammed? Well, maybe they can go off and figure that out. And you can kind of see on the bottom right how our stack looks. They all kind of look the same with the Dell bezel in the front. But we've got a redundant metadata, active-passive. We've got redundant object OSSs in active-active failover. These are the the 7 predefined configurations. And you can see at the top, we've kind of taken the approach of just making things easy, extra small up through extra large. The EP means extra performance, so what we've done is just thrown in another OSS pair to increase performance. So the MDS is at the bottom in yellow, the OSS are in the blue boxes, and then everything below them are the storage. So we go anywhere from 48 terabytes to 336, that's an extra large, at around 3 gigabytes a second. If you want to go faster, you need more OSS pairs and so on. And then on the far right, you can see we can do custom solutions based on whatever you want to do for this. So kind of a quick summary of our HSS3, which we'll have available next week. It's a fully redundant model. I know that maybe you guys are used to that being in this audience, but you'd be surprised how many people think of Lustre as being a non-redundant file system or not having high availability. So we've kind of approached this of increasing the availability. That's always a question we get from customers. Lustre is brittle, Lustre fails. Well, we've got high availability to address your concerns, whether they be real or not. We have modular configurations. You can just tell us what capacity, what performance, and we can kind of like dial in the solution to fit your needs. And of those 4 of those 7 configurations are at or under $1 gigabyte. So we can get pretty good pricing on this as well. Now this is the appliance approach. Let's talk about kind of the roll at your own approach. And this has all been developed at Cambridge by Paul Kalaja and his team. So the first thing they did is they took our previous generation storage, the MD3000, 3 gigabyte SAS, again, active-passive on the MDS and active-active on the OSS. And you can see the diagram here on the right. But if you also look, they've got a full white paper that explains step-by-step how to construct this from Dell hardware, how to go grab the latest Lustre, put it on here. In addition, they also publish performance numbers. So once you build this, how do you know it's going to work? And how do you know what kind of performance you're going to get out of it? They show the benchmarks and the testing that they've done so you can reproduce that exactly to make sure that you get it. The next generation, they're building on the latest generation Dell hardware, the MD3200 series, 6 gigabit SAS, more recent Dell servers with Intel processors and QDR. Currently, this is available as a technical bulletin, which in EMEA speak, I guess, is just a short version. They're working on the full white paper. They should have that done in the next month or so. So if you need that, you can talk to Paul directly, or we'll have that available. But this is the approach we've taken for kind of the roll-at-your-own crowd. So you can buy the Dell hardware, but if you want to reproduce the performance numbers, they tell you step-by-step how to do that. Again, this configuration will be exactly the same: active-passive on the MDS, active-active on the OSS. So with that, I'd actually like to say thank you. Thanks for coming. I appreciate the time.
Thanks, Jeff. All right, next on the list is HP, and we have David Korf from HP. And let me get the presentation up. There you go.
Thank you, Tom. Morning, everyone. First of all, I want to echo what previous people have said. Thank you for coming, and also thank you for the opportunity to speak. Supporting the Luster Group is really important to HP and ensuring that Luster has a future. Having been an engineer, I know this is a technical audience, so you want to get right to the meat. So I would like to get a couple of slides around marketing and what we're offering, and then an example of how we actually deployed this, and then a summary slide. HP, as you know, is a market leader in HPC. We have over 160 systems in the top 500 as of last November. The number 4 system, which we'll be talking about, is the Tokyo Institute of Technology TiTech system, the Tsubame 2, and we'll be going through what it's doing with Luster in just a minute. We have a relationship with DDN, and it has proved to be a very profitable and a very successful relationship. We've worked together for a little over 2 years, John, and we work together, we sell together, and there's a good working relationship. So what you have between HP and DDN is really 2 leaders in the HPC market. Today we offer basically 5 different solutions in the 150, 300, and 600 disks for the S2A 9900, as well as we offer 2 configurations in the 10,000. Both systems integrate well. If you look at what the value add is from HP in this, is we provide the ProLiants as the OSSs, and we've had a very good working relationship in actually developing that and managing them together, so you can see a very strong system that goes out to the customer with a very high performance. What we get with it is we have the unified cluster portfolio upon which we build our clusters. That provides a nice solid base upon which our systems can be built upon, and the density is great. You can have petabytes of storage with this. One of the things I wanted to talk about is how we work together, and give you an example of where we actually did work together and in a win. At the Tokyo Institute of Technology, some of the requirements was they were looking for basically a significant improvement in performance. They had some very tight constraints around fitting in a very small space, 200 square meters, a high efficiency ratio, and they needed to support both Linux and Windows, and they needed a very fast file system. Together with DDN, we were able to match that and meet it. And a little bit of the specifics around it is the compute nodes are GPU and CPU combined. They're a hybrid system. It was the first major shipment, if you will, of the SL390. The SL390 is HP's specific system targeted around HPC. Each of the SL390s, there were 1,408 of them, had NVIDIA GPUs in them, three NVIDIA GPUs per system. There was 1,367 with 54 gigabytes, and also they had SSDs in them. In addition to the 1,408 SL390s, there were also DL580s with NVIDIA S1070s in them. If you looked at the rack would have 90 GPUs plus the system inside. Included in the system, we have QDR built in, so you have QDR InfiniBand actually on the system itself. You don't have to use a PCI slot or add it in. The storage was 7.13 petabytes, and it was split between their own file system as well as Luster. And together, when you put this all together, it was shipped at the end of September, and within 10 days later, it was up and running for the top 500 run in November. So it came together very quickly. and the working relationship we have with HP and our partners to put it together made it really work very well and very nice. Now the question is, where are we going in the future? Well, clearly Lustre has reached critical mass, as evidenced by all of you, as well as the thousands of deployments around the world. Lustre is important to HP and to our HPC business. And so we will work with DDN as well as others in the Lustre ecosystem to ensure that Lustre has further deployment as well as further development for the HPC community. And with that, that's it.
Thanks, David. All right. Next on the list is Terrascala. Oops. Which one was yours? There it is. In there? Yeah, it's right there. We can shape those later.
Your call. Good morning. It's quite the panel we have up here. You know, before I go into my slides, one of the things that I wanted to speak for me personally about the event today is that, and John alluded to this too, that we go out and we talk to people, and there actually are alternatives to Lustre in the marketplace. None that we think are as good as this, but there are alternatives out there. And you know, there's been a lot of discussion about the whole consortiums and the future of Lustre and all of that. And one of the things that I'm very impressed with is this actual event today and all the people that are here and the vitality of the Lustre community. I go out and I have people ask me all the time, I thought Lustre's dead. And I look at them and I say, look at the number of vendors that are currently involved working in this community. Look at the number of people that are there. And I know there's all this noise about multiple consortiums and it'll get sorted out, but there are consortiums. And there is no other file system that you can go out and get this kind of group together to move the state-of-the-art forward. And I wanted to bring that up because I know it's been, people get a little crazy and wonder about the future of where Lustre's going, but I think as you see the people up here and the people out there, there's actually a real future for this, and I think it'll continue to evolve over time. So thank everybody for coming and for being part of that. So I want to talk a little bit about who Terrascala is. I probably should have talked to Jeff beforehand because I think I have some of the same slides. So I'll do those really quick. But we've built an appliance approach to the whole Lustre deployment. And I think there are different classes of people and different problems that need to be solved. And what we look for is the challenge of how do we deliver a completely integrated, roll it off the truck and install it kind of solution. In our definition of what we do as an appliance, we build it from a set of defined configurations which allow us to build it on a factory floor. And what that lets us do is take some cost out of the equation and increase some of the reliability and the consistency of it. And there's a trade-off there. Less flexibility, we believe a more consistent solution, and it also allows us to extract some cost out of the solution so that we're able to deliver some additional value competitive with everybody else. So it's all about simplifying the deployment, the management, and the ongoing usage of the system. And as anybody who works with Lustre, it's about getting the job done and getting the application performance up to the highest levels. So I'll spend a second talking a little bit about what we do in the area of management. There's a whole lot to our solutions. I have a limited time, but I thought to try to describe what our management piece is all about. And there's really three key components to it. There's the console, the actual server, and the agents. And from a console perspective, our approach has been to try and collect all the information that you need to keep your system running and present it in a single screen so that you can see what's happening from everything from what's the current state of my Lustre file system down to which of the disks in the arrays failed that I have to flash the drive so someone can go pull the drive. And related to this, and our whole approach, and I touch on it here, is all about making it so that we can come become reactive in supporting our systems as opposed to proactive. And I know that sounds backwards from what most people would think, but I know a lot of people spend each day sitting there paused over their system, worrying about, oh my God, what's going to happen next? And through a series of notifications and agents, we're able to push out information. We send emails out to people when there are system problems. It has phone home capability. So that kind of level of support to make it easier for people to manage their system. A key part of it is the server itself that monitors and reports on what's happening in terms of the hardware, the file system, the storage arrays, understanding what the LUNs, so maintaining a complete view of the environment. And we have the agents that sit in all the individual pieces. A lot of what are important about the agents is having control over what happens in terms of failover and having a consistent and reliable approach to that. So the whole management solution is designed as an integrated whole so that you can manage your environment, maintain your environment, and keep it running and maximize the uptime. One of the things we like to talk about is that this is not delivered as a black box solution. If you work in this world, you understand it's what we call a gray box solution. It's not that you're locked out of it and can only do it a certain way. We support the patches that people need and the ability you can get console access through the user interface to get all the way down into the nuts and bolts of the system. So that's a chunk about that piece of it. You know, from a sort of overview of the technology solution, we do offer a different range of products. As Jeff talked about, we work with Dell to provide the HSS solution. It's targeted towards a particular class of users and particular configurations. We also have a solution that we call our DTS 4500, which is based off of larger disk arrays. All of our products come with high reliability in terms of active-passive metadata solutions and active-active for the OSS solutions. Additionally, one thing we've added, announced a little while ago, is a gateway appliance to provide mount points so that other file systems can get into the Lustre environment. We see more and more people talking about that. Moving forward, as we go into coming up into supercomputing, we're going to be announcing an additional suite of analytics tools. So to see not only what's happening with your system now, but what's happened with it over time. So I think that, you know, I wanted to keep it short. I know want to give people a chance to ask some questions, et cetera. But to go back to what I said earlier, I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I look forward to the barbecue at Tommy's house next year.
Thanks, Rick. All right, next in alphabetical order, I guess, is Wham Cloud. So let's see, Brent. Up to that one, yeah. Okay. This Brent Gordo.
Thanks. So, welcome everybody. It's good to be here, and congratulations for pulling off the first user-led lug. That was something we had talked about a year ago, so congratulations to the group there. Wham Cloud is about a year old, and you can give or take a few hours on that comment. We really were born out of a reaction to what was going on about a year ago. We are a US company based in California. We consider our first day to be July 17th of last year. And we're pretty spread out. We're one of these virtual companies, Web 2.0 you might consider us. We've got offices in Bristol. We're going to open an office in Boulder, Colorado in the 1st of May. We've got an office in Beijing. We got about 40 people. This is the staff. You may recognize some of them. Many of them have a lot of Lustre experience. In fact, most of them have a lot of Lustre experience. You'll find that we have very few people who are not related to Lustre over the years. Find your favorite personalities in there. Everybody's reading through, looking. What you won't find is we don't have people who are level 1, level 2 type technical people. We've really got deep talent in our ranks with respect to the Lustre code. We have a pretty deep commitment to being steady hands on the Lustre source tree. We've tried really hard to help the community come together. We want to see one version of Lustre available. We think of it as the kernel.org model, where there's a core tree somewhere and then everybody can pull from that to make their own distributions. The vendors do that today. We'd like to be close to that core. We'd like to be the steady hands that are helping make sure that the roadmap for Lustre is well executed. Many of you heard Eric talk about this yesterday. We think a lot of credit is due to specifically Sun and to a lesser extent Oracle for the huge investment they made in resiliency in Lustre over the last few years. Those of you who don't know, Lawrence Livermore stood up a very large machine called Hyperion, 1152 nodes, and pretty much dedicated it to the cause of Lustre. And that's in a large part why we find ourselves where we are today with a steady, stable tree. One of the downsides of that, of course, is we go out and try to convince people they need support. We're hearing a lot of people go, 1.8 is so great, we don't need to buy support. So it's a double-edged issue for us. Of course, we're a company that does not sell hardware. Our business model is based entirely on selling support. You've heard that we've got relationships with several of the vendors. At SC last year, we signed and announced a worldwide L3 support contract with Data Direct Networks. So if you buy Lustre with your hardware from DDN, it is likely to come with WAM Cloud support no matter where you are in the world. We've got employees in 10 different time zones. We provide support everywhere. We support all versions of Lustre, and we're working on more agreements with more of the storage vendors and the compute vendors. We'd like to be the backstop for Lustre. We want to be the hands that make sure Lustre works for everybody. And to us, that means being fair and neutral to all of the parties that are trying to resell Lustre. We sell professional services. One of the things that we've done a couple of classes in training so far, and we've announced in the last week that the next training class will be in Salt Lake City on these dates. If you're interested in Lustre training, please contact us. We're trying to spin this up and see what sort of market there is for it. We've also done quite a bit, a surprising amount actually, of site architecture planning, installation, and benchmarking for Lustre. People have come to us. There's a lot of SSD startup companies that have come to us and said, what can our equipment do for Lustre? So we've done a bunch of benchmarking to try and see what the path forward might look like with respect to that technology. And then, of course, the last thing that we offer here, and perhaps the most important, is the NRE development. We want to be the company that you partner with to carry the roadmap forward. We don't want to be the company that does all of the work. We want to be the company that makes sure that all of the work is done right. We're happy to work with other parties that are developing things. We think open communication so that everybody knows what the roadmap looks like, where the plan is, no surprises. I think one of the things that the gatekeepers have told me time and time again is if somebody shows up and says, here's a feature, and tries pushing it over the wall, the likeliness of that going into the Lustre tree is pretty low. Maybe in a contrib directory somewhere, but we have to act as one community, right? It's really one technology, and we have to act as one community here. And I think this week is actually pretty instrumental in helping that go forward. So our support partners, currently these are the announced support partners. DDN, we announced that SC, as I mentioned, LSI, we announced just in the past week or so, and we're really excited to add them. That was done after the NetApp acquisition, by the way, so there is expectation here that there's some upside with the acquisition. We announced the arrangement with Bull a couple days ago. So when you buy your compute or data from these guys, you can get WAM Cloud support. You can also get it directly from WAM Cloud, but only in certain instances, and those are generally if your site can do its own level 1, level 2 support, and there's an advantage to working directly with WAM Cloud, we'll work directly with you. We prefer to work through our vendors. But if there's an advantage to having a direct relationship, we'll do that. Some of our customers, the typical suspects in here, these are the direct customers. We've got 40 or 50 sites that we provide support for, a little bit of engineering for, that are indirect through our partners. So these are the direct partners. There's a couple of really small sites there at the bottom that you may not, well, Intel's obviously not a small site, but the Rise Visual Studio Effects and the Mount Sinai School of Medicine, to me, these are really indicators of the potential for expansion of Lustre in the commercial space. And so this is the exception to us saying that you have to have your own advanced capability to work directly with us. In some cases, where there's a new market industry, we'll work directly with that market to try and understand what the opportunities are there, and then communicate that to our partners so that they can sell in that area. We've also been as active in the community as we possibly can be, while being even-handed here. In January, we announced that we were going to do the 2.1 release with the community, leading the community in that. We've communicated, we've participated at a technical level in all of the community groups that you heard from yesterday. And we've basically donated our infrastructure to the cause for the 2.1 release. We've donated the people that are leading that, and we've donated the software infrastructure, the bug database, and so on. You'll also see us very active at the conferences trying to spread the word of Lustre for our partners for the most part. One of the examples for that is you'll see quite a few talks here from our technical staff. As we ramp up, these people have not been sitting idle waiting for the sales to come in and do business. They're actually out there pushing Lustre forward and doing interesting things. So you should attend these talks and learn what we're up to. The one that, all of them are very interesting, but take a look at the Fanyang talk about the performance improvements that he's got for the metadata, or for the metadata operations. That one will actually be very interesting to you. We do have a roadmap that we're building in participation with the community. And what you see here in the black text are funded projects that we're working on, either by ourselves or in association with others. Some of the red text and the unassigned features off to the right are a bit of a start on where we think the roadmap should go. What you see is 2 release lines here. There's a maintenance release, which is what we expect most sites that want stability to be using, and then there's the feature release. Not all the feature releases will make it into a maintenance release. The main feature releases will go up into a maintenance release and then be maintained over time. This is posted to our wiki at the URL there if you care to take a look. Other activities that we're doing, we're trying to publish information as fast as we're able to make it. So we're putting white papers up on our website for download so that people can understand what Lustre's about and what the trade-offs are. We're also, as you heard earlier from Chris Gearing, working on a test infrastructure that we hope to get out to the community to help the community act as one and keep a single source tree. And then we're playing with management tools because we think Lustre really has the potential to expand in the marketplace if it has the right tools to do so. That's it. Thanks.
Thanks, Brent. And then our final presentation today will be Peter Bojanic from Zyratex. And do you want to just drive it like this?
Thanks, Tommy. Hi, I'm Peter Bojanic. I've worked with a lot of you in the past, and I look forward to continuing to work with a lot of you in the future. Last year's LUG, there were two really interesting things about last year's LUG. One is that I had the unfortunate news of kind of disclosing what Oracle's future intentions were for Lustre, disappointing a lot of people, but on a positive note, it's energized a community, and I think that we see a lot of that, a lot of the results of that in the last year and culminating in today. So fantastic results to a potential crisis. The other thing that was interesting last year is this company called Zyratex was kind of hanging around LUG, and some of them were wearing Zyratex badges, and in retrospect, a lot of them weren't actually wearing Zyratex badges at all. And at the time, I was thinking, Zyra who? I'd never really heard of this company before. I got to know a lot more about them, and I joined this past October. Zyratex is a storage company. In fact, it's the largest OEM disk storage provider in the world. There's a lot of deep storage experience in Xyratex. In fact, 19% in 2010, 19% of the world's external storage capacity was actually shipped by Xyratex. In fact, there are probably Xyratex components in some of the storage that you're using today. You just may not know that it's under the covers. So Xyratex is kind of it's deeply ingrained in the storage industry. Last year we shipped over 3 exabytes of storage, there's kind of 2 sides of Xyratex. There's the network storage part, and that's the part that I work for. There's also another part which is the storage infrastructure. And in storage infrastructure, 50% of the world's disk drives are actually manufactured with our test equipment. So even if you're not using our stuff, your disks are probably manufactured and tested with our quality equipment. Xyratex is actually formerly an IBM. It was formerly IBM. It was an employee buyout. Over 25 years of storage experience. We've got 2,000 employees worldwide, located in our world headquarters is in the south of England in Havant. We also have development centers in Lake Mary, Florida, not very far from here. So this ends up actually being a trip that I take fairly frequently, and in Fremont, California. And then we've got worldwide sales and support organizations. Revenue is growing rapidly, tenfold revenue growth since 2000. So that's a little bit of a snapshot of Xyratex. Probably a lot of news to you as well, because it's not necessarily a company that's been active in the Lustre world. In fact, a lot of people have been scratching their heads saying, what is Xyratex doing with Lustre? At Supercomputing this past year, we actually put out a press release and announced that we had done an acquisition of a company called ClusterStor, and that we are in fact actively doing something with Lustre, but we were still being relatively vague. The fact is that we're a large public company. We've got a roadmap for what we're going to be doing. We have to be very careful about how we disclose and how we roll out that roadmap. So now we're at the stage. Our CEO Steve Barber just a few weeks ago in the earnings call basically came out and said Xyratex is making a substantial investment, tens of millions of dollars in the next several years, related to Lustre and Lustre-centric products. So we're here. We're progressively disclosing a lot of what our intentions are. I'll tell you about a white paper in a moment. But just to recap what our interests are in Lustre. We completed so Peter Braum, the inventor of Lustre, and a number of the initial architects of Lustre formed a company called ClusterStor. This was after the Sun acquisition, and then Xyratex acquired ClusterStor last summer. So that provides us a very solid foundation of file system expertise, particularly in Lustre, and we're continuing to recruit top talent in the file system world. Xyratex is strongly committed as a storage vendor. We recognize the importance of quality and reliability in storage solutions, and so a lot of us are talking about quality and the importance of quality and testing right from the ground up in Lustre-based solutions. Xyratex is strongly committed to producing the highest quality Lustre solutions that we possibly can. We're going to leverage those capabilities to assist our OEM partners. So Xyratex sells exclusively to OEMs, and our mission is to assist those OEM partners in addressing their growing needs in the HPC market, and addressing the requirements of large data type solutions. We're also committed to working with the Lustre open source community. So we've been very active in the European, we were founders in the European organization in HPCFS, and we're working very actively with OpenSFS. We're having discussions even here. A lot of the engineers who used to work together are either at Xyratex or at WAM Cloud, and already our engineers are talking about architectural approaches and getting together face to face to start to chart out some of the difficult challenges that we have to address technically over the next couple of years. Stay tuned. So now we're talking about what it is our intentions are with Lustre. We're not yet talking about product, but stay tuned, because we will be announcing product in the not too distant future. Certainly, if you do have any procurements coming up, we would very much like to talk to you. So you can either nab me after the call, or you can after the presentation, or you can talk to Kevin or Ken Claffey. We'd be happy to talk to you about your future storage procurements. We have two white papers. One of them was actually just released yesterday or today or something like that. We've got copies of it around. This is, it's the Lustre Architectural Priorities Overview. So what we've done is we've articulated what we think is important to Lustre to integrate into our solutions and to meet the growing needs of the HPC community. Some of it's largely, it's not necessarily an architectural document in terms of prescribing how we're going to solve things. Some solutions are proposed in there. It's largely what we think are the priorities over the next couple of years that we're going to be investing in, doing the development ourselves, working with the community to advance some of these priorities as well. So you'll actually see a lot of our things, a lot of our requirements are already overlapping with what the community needs, and we're making sure that the deltas, some of the interesting approaches that we were planning on taking, we're now talking about openly with the community groups. There's another white paper that isn't released quite yet, but Nathan Ruttman gave a presentation on MapReduce with Lustre yesterday. Those slides will be available. We're working on with Jim Hoffman and NRL to get approval on issuing the white paper. I think it's just a little bit of a matter of time, and that will elaborate a lot of the details about what Nathan talked about the other day. So that's all that I've got to talk about today. And please stay tuned, because I think we've got some really exciting stuff on the not too distant horizon.
All right, thanks to all the vendor panelists up here. I'd like to open the floor up for questions now. So if you've got a question for any one of the vendors, for all of them, please let Steve know, and he'll bring the mic around so that you can ask your questions. No questions for the vendors? Yeah. Well, I do have one. So I'll start off with a question. So yesterday we saw the 3 platforms for the community and some various models that were offered up in terms of supporting the community. I think I know some of your opinions, but I'd be curious just to get a little bit of feedback, and I think we can use this mic right here if you turn it on and pass it around. I'd like to get your opinion basically on what you think the best model would be, best approach would be for this conference. We heard the Linux approach, we heard the OFED approach, maybe a blend of the two. Any suggestions?
I think it should be the Dell approach, only and always.
Of course.
I can't define that, but that's what I want it to be. I guess from a Dell perspective and being a longtime Linux guy, while I want Dell to be and vendors to be involved, I actually really think it should be user-driven. Whatever the user community kind of drives out, we're happy to sponsor, but we don't want to necessarily force it in any particular direction. We're glad to help, so we'd like to participate in all the groups, but if the groups want to collaborate, if the model wants to change, we're fine with that. Like I said, always, Dell always. So there you go.
One thing when new organizations form like this, they always start out with a bunch of preconceived ideas and suggestions, and it never ends up with what people start with. And so from our perspective, I think we need to see it evolve. What was set out with some stakes in the ground, and we need to look at that, but the community really needs to start to evolve and look at what makes sense at most for the community. And you need to then try and maximize that capability once you find out where the heart of the organization is.
So it's hard to argue with either of those. Well, maybe not the Dell inside thing, but the evolutionary approach, I think, is critical here. From our perspective, we've got a lot of the talent and want to do a lot of the work, but it's got to be a consensus by the community such that no one group feels like they're left out and feels the need to go off and do something else.
Okay. The first point I would like to mention is I think that we have several groups, we have users, but a community is also a single repository, is a single defect tracker system, is a release manager. And it is the first element of a community. And today I would like to thank you, Claude, for taking the lead for the Lister 2.1 versions. And we will see what happens for the next versions. But all the others are contributors. And whatever, is it a single group or whatever, is it different groups, all these groups are contributing to this single source tree, to this single defect management system, and are contributing to make this new release a product for all of us. And again, whatever the number of groups participating to the effort.
Yeah, I mean, I'll echo everything else that everybody said here. It's basically, again, we're a community effort. When things start out, there's 2 or 3 ideas, views, and that's a great thing. And like Dave said, maybe things will come together in terms of moving in one direction from all the groups. Not that we're moving in different directions, but maybe we'll put all our energy in a more focused direction. And then at the same time, like Eric mentioned, you know, we have WAMCloud has taken the lead on 2.1 release, and that's great for all of us, I think. And moving forward, we don't know if that will continue. You know, hopefully we will continue with future releases and development. And again, let's the group, the community, decide what might be best for everything that to go on.
I think that from a community perspective, I mean, it's a global community, and we have to expect that there will be some pluralism in community groups. There's some confusion right now, and I think that was voiced and discussed fairly well yesterday. But having multiple community groups and multiple contributors to Lustre is going to be a reality that we have to contend with. Before I was involved in Lustre and in storage, I actually was doing internet appliances, operating environments for internet appliances, and I was very deeply connected with the Netscape spin-off, Mozilla.org. And I keep thinking that there's got to be something there to learn from, where the management of the source code tree, the gatekeeping and so forth, is actually successfully done by people who are sponsored by their organization based on meritocracy, right? So the bug database, the source code repository, the gatekeepers, all these folks actually work for multiple organizations, but there's kind of one organization that controls based on merit who gets to do that. I think that we have to be careful. We have to look at the past. We have to learn from the past and understand that there's a lot of value not only in the source code, but in the intellectual property that lives in the bug database and in the intellectual property that it gets accumulated in the test results. And I would really like to see us find a way to allow those things to endure any of our companies' interest in Lustre or business models and so forth.
It's always tough to be at the end of the line after everybody's said anything. You know, I think I agree with a lot of what was said, and in the interest of moving the discussion along, I think that it's important that there be a lot of community involvement in this, and I think that as you see the number of vendors being involved, that as important as it be user-led, that the vendor interests be included in it as well. I think that you have to, part of the challenge, and I think some of the stumblings, and I don't know the answers to it, is how do we as vendors be comfortable to be in the same room with our competitors, and how to sort that out so that we can all feel protected and still contribute to it. And I think that that drives a little bit of the unease right now. But I think it is a solvable problem, and I think as a group we all, that Unix war slides, I was young at the time, but I do remember those days, and I was a software engineer and had to support 27 different varieties of Unix, and I can tell you it's not a great way to live. So I think, but I do think that we will get through it. I think there is the fact that there's enough involvement and people putting the effort into it, I think it will get sorted out and it'll continue to move forward.
When you're all sitting at the same table, so standing in the same room should be quite easy.
It's true. It's true.
Thank you. Are there any other questions out there on the floor? Hugo? Hey, Steve, up here. Hugo.
My question is to Peter. We learned the last 1.5 days that there are actually 2 forces out there right now working very strong on the further development. It's WAM-Cloud and it's Xyratex. How do you two companies make sure on a day-to-day work level that you concentrate on that one tree, that you are supporting it, that you are sharing ideas, so that you are fostering the future of Luster, as we heard yesterday, in supporting the 2.1 release coming up from WAM-Cloud, for example, but also the next steps beyond that, so that we always have the best ideas coming together in a joint working relationship. How do you make sure that that works on a day-to-day basis?
Good question, thank you. So already we're collaborating on the Luster 2.1 release. Xyratex is, unfortunately Xyratex was doing a lot of stuff while we were still kind of in stealth mode, so unfortunately there was some duplicated effort related to Luster 2.1. Fortunately all of that is behind us, and kind of all the wood is behind one arrow now. We're collaborating on Luster 2.1. We've expressed clear intention to continue to collaborate going forward. The future isn't quite as clear beyond 2.1, but we're committed to finding a way to work together. Really, when it comes down to it, this is all a group of people who have worked together for many years together. So although we're going to have different approaches and optimizations to how patch landing works and how quality works and so forth, this is a group of people who know, like, and respect each other. And I think that that's the foundation of any kind of community collaboration, is that respect and that trust. So unfortunately, I don't have all the answers for you because we don't know what happens beyond 2.1. But what I can say is that we have intentions. We have good intentions to find ways to continue to collaborate. And we're already talking about getting together face-to-face. Since we published the architectural priorities the other day, I made sure that the first people that got a copy of that were like Andreas and Eric Barton, and already we're talking about, let's get together face-to-face and start to work through some of these things and make sure that the details are aligned and we know who's doing what. So,
I've got a question for Dell, actually. No, it's so where have you deployed other than Cambridge?
Well, actually, unfortunately, I can't name them particularly because...
That's fair.
As you discovered, a lot of customers are very sensitive. But we have installations, again, this is version 3, so obviously we've gone through version 1 and 2. So we have a version at some place. I'm not sure where it is.
Yes, we have one.
We've deployed it at a couple of sites, another few sites, I should say, a couple being more than 2, or several being more than 2, a couple being 2. My wife is very particular about those words. So I have to be very careful how I say that.
Right on, thanks.
So, oh, and by the way, real quick, I forgot to mention this in my slides, and my cohort in crime over here from Dell, John Fergala, reminded me. Real quick, we are hiring in a number of areas, particularly file systems. If you like the Austin area, and Tommy's got great barbecue at his house. So we are hiring. If you're interested, let me know. And by the way, the last thing I want to say is I have the trademark on the phrase, dude, you're getting a Luster. Just so you know.
Thanks.
So let me add to that a bit if I can. One of the things, we're actually not hiring right now. One of the things I want to point out, maybe I shouldn't have said that. One of the things I want to point out is we do not have an overabundant amount of technical people that can work on Luster. And one of the things that we need to do as a community is to increase the technical talent pool. Our way of doing that is we've got relationships with several universities, and we're trying to mentor students that we think have the right stuff to work in this industry. And we're not mentoring them with the entire intention that they're going to work at WAM-Cloud forever, but rather that they're available to the community. We're putting people on site at customer sites with the same intention to spread the knowledge around, to grow the talent pool. I think as a community we need to be doing this stuff.
Are there any other questions for the vendors out there? Oh, okay, one back there, back.
this is a question that may be as appropriate for yesterday evening's discussion as this one, but I see the participation here from the large labs who have large government contracts and large staffs, as well as some of the larger vendors. We're a smaller academic facility. I'm Charlie Taylor of the University of Florida High Performance Computing Center, and we depend heavily on Lustre, and it's been a fantastic product for us. And we'd like to participate in the community and support the community, but we don't have the kind of staff and resources that the large government labs do. I'm just sort of one, and we don't have the budget to pay $9,000 per OSS for a year of Lustre support. But we would like to participate in the community, and we can fund graduate students, for example, as Lustre development interns. That's something that we could possibly do. Or we might be able to, we can't make a donation because we're a government agency, but we could, and I'm just thinking out loud, pay for pay something to Wham Cloud to support development or some other company. But I'm wondering how might an organization like ours best support this community? What would be most helpful?
So I could almost repeat my last statement. If you're growing students, you should be growing them such that this community wants to hire them. So start training them up in Lustre and declare, self-declare that you're experts in this technology, and you'll find people will gravitate towards you and start asking about whether you have talent that's available.
Anybody else want to comment? No. Sorry, we'll stay on this side of the table.
Go down that way.
All right.
I've already had too much.
So, in any technology community, the first rung or the first tier of collaboration and contribution is testing, right? So it's probably the easiest thing to do. If you've got iron, if you've got capacity and people, then test and provide feedback. That's kind of one of the easiest things that you can be doing. In order to cultivate, a lot of engineers get started in Lustre by fixing bugs. Right? So if you want to understand how the development cycle works, Wham Cloud have got this clearly articulated. You can get involved in the Lustre 2 effort. Find some low-hanging fruit in terms of bugs, and just get through the cycle and learn how to do it. Get involved in the community groups, OpenSFS, HPCFS. Even if you don't sign up as a member, all these organizations are providing, the opportunity to participate in meetings and to provide input and so forth. But just be visible, be active, and do something. Get started.
David, did you want to?
I think you bring up a really good point, and I'd like to echo what Brent said. If you look around the room and just look at the age of people, well, mentally I'm 21 too, but I think it's really important that we bring in the youth, and that we sponsor and that we help cultivate that. Because it isn't just the file system, but if you look at the whole HPC community, it all has a similar type of an issue. In addition to that, I think looking at where the technologies are going and encouraging people to move into things that are on the cutting edge, that isn't all just glitz around, videos and graphics and things like that, that are really hardcore science, hardcore solutions, that universities can help by doing that and bringing students into this type of a field for not only file systems, but for HPC and parallelism in general.
Thank you. All right, I think we have time for maybe one more question before the coffee break, if anybody has one. Going once.
Hey, Tommy, let me make one more, Charlie, one more quick comment. Everything's perfect. Something that I'd like to see is I want to see your experience. What's worked for you, what hasn't worked for you, what version of Lustre made you cry, what version of Lustre makes you cheer. Yeah, we're not going to talk about the 1.4 series.
Yeah, 1.4.
I got some stories about that. What applications are you running? Are your researchers running? What's their experience? All that kind of good stuff. All kinds of feedback. Also, from a vendor perspective, if you want to jump up and down and hold your breath for features, and then we can come back to the community and say, here's some features our customers want. So we're just a conduit, but we want the customers, the end users, to tell us the features they want so we can pass it back to the community. So all of that, anything that you want to throw out there and publish, we'd love to hear.
Okay, well, I don't think anybody had any other questions. So with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up and break for a quick coffee for everyone. Thank you. Thanks again to the vendors for the presentation.